2:14 a.m. The ER doors slammed open as soldiers rushed in a stretcher. A Navy SEAL lay unconscious, blood soaking through his uniform, shrapnel wounds tearing across his side. But no one noticed the blood first. They noticed the K9. The military dog refused to leave the stretcher, teeth bared, body rigid, eyes locked on every hand that came near his partner. Doctors shouted, nurses froze. "Get that dog out of here!" Security raised their weapons. The K9 snapped. Full combat mode, one more step, and they would have fired. That's when the rookie blonde nurse stepped forward. She knelt beside the dog, leaned close, and whispered a single unit code. Low, calm, precise. The K9 stopped instantly, sat down, lowered his head against the stretcher. The room went silent. Later, when surgeons asked her what she said, she answered quietly, "Something they don't teach in colleges." And when a Navy helicopter landed on the rooftop minutes later, the SEAL commander didn't ask about the dog. He asked to meet the nurse. Before we tell you what happened next, take 2 seconds to comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe. The ER doors exploded open at 2:14 a.m. 2 soldiers burst through first, boots slamming against tile, voices sharp with urgency. Behind them, a stretcher came flying in so fast it nearly clipped the doorframe. On it lay a Navy SEAL, unconscious, uniform shredded along his left side, blood seeping through hastily applied field bandages. His face was pale, jaw clenched, body rigid in the way only men trained for violence carried even in collapse. But that wasn't what stopped the room. What stopped everyone was the dog. A massive military K9 ran alongside the stretcher, muscles taut, ears pinned forward, eyes locked on the man lying on the gurney. Every step the stretcher took, the dog matched it, shoulder brushing the metal frame, never breaking contact. "Who brought the dog inside?" someone shouted. "It won't leave him," a soldier snapped back. "That's his partner." The trauma bay erupted into motion. Nurses scattered. A crash cart slammed into place. Monitors were wheeled in, cords snapping taut. Surgeons began barking orders before the stretcher even stopped. Vitals? BP dropping. Shrapnel wounds, grenade blast, non-combat training incident. "Get him onto the table now." The soldiers pushed the stretcher forward, but suddenly one of them froze. His radio crackled. "Yes, sir. Understood. We're on it." He looked down at the SEAL, then at the dog. "We have to go," he said quietly. "Commander needs us immediately." The other soldier hesitated. "The dog? Stay," he told the K9 instinctively, hand pressing briefly to the animal's neck. "Stay with him." Then they were gone. The stretcher rolled to a stop. The K9 didn't move. Doctors approached. The dog growled, low, deep, controlled. The sound wasn't fear. It was combat readiness. "Someone get animal control," a nurse whispered. "No," a surgeon snapped. "We don't have time. Get that dog out of here." A tech stepped forward, hands raised slowly. The K9 lunged, not fully, but enough to make the warning unmistakable. Teeth bared, hackles up, body angled between the doctors and the SEAL. The room froze. Security moved in at the doorway, hands already drifting toward their weapons. "Clear the animal," one of them muttered. "Now." The K9's eyes flicked to them. That was when everyone realized something terrifying. The dog wasn't panicking. He was guarding. "If he bites someone, we have to put him down," a security officer said quietly. A finger tightened near a trigger. The dog shifted his weight, and in that instant, before the chaos tipped into something irreversible, the rookie nurse stepped forward. Her name badge read AVA. Blonde hair pulled back tight, early 30s, plain blue scrubs, no rank, no senior markings. The kind of nurse most people barely noticed unless they needed vitals taken. She moved slowly, deliberately. She knelt beside the stretcher, keeping her body low, non-threatening. She didn't reach for the dog, didn't look at security, didn't raise her voice. She leaned close to the K9's ear and whispered 6 words. Low, precise, measured. Words no one else recognized. The K9 froze. His body went still like a switch had been flipped. The growl stopped mid-breath. He sat down. Then gently, he lowered his head and pressed it against the SEAL's chest. The trauma bay went silent. Security lowered their weapons. Doctors stared. No one moved. Ava stayed where she was for one more second, her hand hovering, not touching. Then she stood and stepped back. Go, she said calmly. He'll let you now. The lead surgeon swallowed hard. How did you operate? Ava replied. And just like that, the room snapped back into motion. The K9 stayed planted at the SEAL's side, eyes tracking every movement but no longer threatening. Surgeons cut away the uniform. Blood bloomed across the sheets as shrapnel wounds were exposed, jagged, violent, the unmistakable signature of a training grenade malfunction. Jesus, someone whispered. He was lucky this wasn't live combat. Lucky isn't the word, another surgeon muttered as the monitor dipped. They worked fast. Clamp, suction, pressure. The SEAL's vitals wavered dangerously. The K9 didn't blink. Ava stood against the wall now, hands clasped loosely in front of her, eyes never leaving the table. She looked calm, almost detached, but something in her posture was too precise, too disciplined. The surgeon glanced back at her. What did you say to that dog? He demanded. Ava didn't look at him. Something they don't teach in colleges, she answered quietly. They didn't have time to ask more. The SEAL went into arrhythmia. Charge! Now! The paddles came down. The K9 flinched but didn't move. Shock. Nothing. Shock again. The monitor steadied just enough to keep him alive. Minutes blurred together. Blood, commands, controlled chaos. At one point, the K9 let out a soft whine. Not panic, not fear, just awareness. Ava's eyes sharpened instantly. Left side, she said. He's bleeding internally. The surgeon snapped his head around. What? Now, Ava insisted. You're missing it. They checked. She was right. The room went quieter after that. They saved him, but barely. When the last suture went in and the SEAL was rushed toward surgery recovery, the K9 followed, never once leaving his side. Ava watched them disappear down the hall. Only then did her shoulders drop a fraction. A doctor approached her slowly, like he wasn't sure who she really was anymore. You don't look like animal control, he said carefully. And you don't sound like a nurse who just learned her first shift. Ava met his eyes for the first time. I am a nurse, she said. That's enough. Before he could respond, a deep, thudding vibration rolled through the building. Windows rattled, lights flickered. Everyone felt it in their feet. What the hell is that? Someone asked. The charge nurse looked up at the ceiling, eyes widening. That's a helicopter. Another vibration, closer this time. Then the unmistakable sound of rotor blades cutting the night air. A security guard rushed in. Roof access just lit up. Navy Bird, no clearance request. The doctor frowned. For who? No one answered. Ava's jaw tightened. She knew that sound, and she knew what it meant when a helicopter landed without asking. Somewhere above them, steel touched concrete. And as the K9 lifted his head and let out a low, steady bark, recognition, not alarm, Ava realized the pass she'd buried had just landed on the roof. And whoever stepped off that helicopter wasn't here for the wounded SEAL. They were here for the nurse who whispered the code. The helicopter blades were still winding down when the elevator doors opened. 4 men stepped out. They moved with the quiet certainty of people used to being obeyed without raising their voices. No weapons visible, no insignia on their jackets, just posture, timing, and the kind of calm that didn't belong in a civilian hospital at 3 a.m. The lead surgeon stiffened when he saw them. Restricted area, he said automatically. The tallest man didn't even slow down. We know. His eyes swept the hallway once, taking in the blood-streaked floor, the shaken staff, the armed security still hovering near the trauma bay. Then his gaze landed on the K9. The dog was sitting beside the gurney outside recovery, body aligned perfectly with the unconscious SEAL's chest, head lifted, ears forward. He didn't growl. He didn't move. He simply watched. The man stopped. For the first time since entering the building, his expression changed. Where is she? He asked. The surgeon blinked. Where's who? The nurse, the man said. The one who spoke to the dog. A silence fell over the corridor. Ava was standing near the nurse's station, half in shadow, finishing a chart she didn't need to finish. She'd felt the shift the moment the elevator doors opened. The air had changed. The way it always did when people from her past walked into her present. She didn't look up. The charge nurse pointed anyway. Her. The man followed the gesture and froze. It was subtle. Anyone without military experience might have missed it. The pause, the slight tightening of the shoulders, the breath he didn't quite finish. His boots stopped inches short of Ava. For a long moment, he just stared. Then, slowly, deliberately, he straightened and raised his hand. A full, hard Navy SEAL salute. Every conversation in the hallway died instantly. Doctors stared, nurses gasped, security shifted in confusion. Ava closed her eyes. Just for a second. Commander, she said quietly, returning the salute without hesitation. The man lowered his hand, his face pale now. Ma'am, he replied, I didn't know you were alive. Neither did most of the world. They took her to a small consultation room away from the ER. No one argued. No one asked questions. The K-9 followed until the door, then sat, eyes never leaving Ava until the frame blocked his view. The door shut. Inside, the room felt too bright, too clean. The commander removed his jacket and placed it carefully over the back of a chair, like he was preparing for a briefing, not a reunion with a ghost. How long? He asked. Ava sat. Long enough. He shook his head slowly. You were declared KIA, Gulf War, night ambush, entire unit wiped out. I know, she said. I was there. His jaw tightened. We pulled what we could from the op site. Bodies, tags, equipment. No survivors. Ava's voice stayed steady. You weren't supposed to find one. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. That dog. The code you used. She met his eyes. Unit recall phrase. Conditioned response. It tells him his handler is safe and command authority is present. That phrase hasn't been used in decades, he said. It was retired after... He stopped himself. After my unit, Ava finished. The commander exhaled slowly. The SEAL on that table, he was injured during a training exercise. Live simulation grenade malfunction, shrapnel ricocheted wrong. I know, Ava said. The pattern didn't match combat. He shouldn't have survived transport, the commander continued. The K-9 kept him conscious until they reached the gate. Ava nodded once. That dog is the reason he's alive. And you're the reason the dog didn't kill anyone in that room, he said. Silence stretched between them. Finally, he asked the question he'd been holding back. How did you survive? Ava leaned back in her chair. The room seemed to dim, not physically, but in weight. Night operation, she began. Gulf, desert perimeter, no moon, no air cover. We were ghosts. The commander listened without interrupting. We were the top classified unit at the time, Ava continued. Direct action specialists, insertion, elimination, extraction. No names, no records. 1/3 of the confirmed kills attributed to us were mine alone. His eyes flickered, but he didn't look away. We hit a compound that shouldn't have known we were coming, she said. But they did. Perfect angles. Perfect timing. An ambush, he said quietly. Yes, she swallowed. I was thrown clear by the blast. Lost consciousness. When I came to, everything was on fire. Her hands clenched briefly, then relaxed. My team was gone. All of them. I crawled, hid, stayed still for hours until extraction teams swept the area. And you? He asked. I was injured enough to look dead, Ava said. That saved me. The commander stared at her. Why disappear? Ava's gaze hardened. Because someone wanted my unit erased, not just killed, forgotten. He leaned back. You think it was an inside job? I know it was, she replied. The room fell silent again. Finally, he said, The Admiral. Ava nodded. He found me after, before the reports were finalized, before the paperwork. The commander's eyes widened slightly. He helped you vanish. He gave me a choice, Ava said. Trial, testimony, or a clean slate. And you chose to disappear. I chose to live, she corrected. As a human, not a weapon. The commander rubbed his face. You became a nurse. I learned how to save lives instead of taking them, Ava said. Seemed like balance. A knock interrupted them. The door opened just enough for a medic to peek in. The SEAL's out of surgery, he said. Stable. The dog hasn't moved. Ava stood immediately. The commander followed her back into the corridor. They stopped outside recovery. The K9 lifted his head, saw Ava, stood, and pressed his forehead gently against her thigh. The commander watched, stunned. He recognizes you. He recognizes command, Ava replied, and loss. The SEAL stirred faintly on the bed. The dog whimpered softly, tail thumping once against the floor. The commander turned to Ava. You could come back, he said quietly. We could use you. She shook her head. I'm done with war. He nodded slowly, respecting the answer even if he didn't like it. As dawn light crept through the hospital windows, Ava looked once more at the man on the bed, at the dog who never left his side, and at the commander who still couldn't quite believe she existed. Some legends weren't meant to return to the battlefield. Some were meant to fade into ordinary life. And if you think we should never judge the quiet ones, comment, never judge. Dawn crept into the hospital like it didn't belong there. The harsh white lights of the ER dimmed slightly as morning staff filtered in, unaware of what had happened overnight. To them, it was just another shift. Another wounded soldier, another emergency that barely made the internal incident log. But to the people who'd been there, the building felt different. Ava stood near the ICU doors, arms crossed loosely, watching the steady rise and fall of the SEAL's chest through the glass. Tubes and lines surrounded him now, machines humming in a controlled rhythm. He was alive. Barely, but alive. The K9 lay curled on the floor beside the bed, head resting against the frame, eyes half open, but alert. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't moved more than a few inches since surgery ended. The commander joined Ava at the window. You stayed, he said. Ava didn't look at him. He doesn't have anyone else right now. The commander nodded slowly. The men he trained with are still deployed. His family hasn't been notified yet. And the dog? Ava asked. He's cleared to stay, the commander replied. No one wanted to argue after last night. A faint pause settled between them. Security footage, the commander said quietly. From the trauma bay. Ava's jaw tightened just enough to notice. They asked for it, he continued. Not hospital admin, not medical review. Who? Ava asked. Naval intelligence. She turned to face him for the first time since sunrise. Why? Because a K9 entering full combat mode in a civilian hospital is already an incident, he said, but calming instantly after hearing a retired unit code? He shook his head. That raised flags all the way up the chain. Ava exhaled slowly. I didn't plan to say it. I know, the commander replied. That's what scares them. They walked down the hall together, away from the ICU, into a quiet corner where staff lockers lined the walls. The hospital buzzed faintly with morning noise now, but this stretch remained untouched. You need to understand something, the commander said. Your unit wasn't just classified. It was buried. Ava leaned against the wall. I figured that out when no one came looking. They did, he corrected. They just didn't find you. Her eyes narrowed. Someone tried? He hesitated. That's why the Admiral moved so fast, he finally said, when he realized you were alive. Ava closed her eyes briefly. Memories surfaced. An office she barely remembered. A man in dress blues with tired eyes. The weight of a decision that would shape the rest of her life. He told me staying visible would get me killed, she said. Not by the enemy. By our own people, the commander confirmed. By the ones who signed off on your unit's existence and then decided you knew too much. Ava laughed softly, without humor. So he turned me into a nurse. He gave you paperwork, the commander corrected. A civilian identity, a clean trail, no military fingerprints. And watched me disappear, Ava said. The commander studied her. You don't sound bitter. I was, she admitted. For a long time. They fell quiet again. Down the hall, a doctor rushed past, speaking urgently into a phone. The hospital was returning to normal, but the tension hadn't left. The SEAL, Ava said suddenly. The one on the table. What was he training for? The commander didn't answer right away. A joint evaluation, he said finally. New K9 handler integration protocols, stress tests, live simulations. Ava stiffened. Live grenades? Modified, he replied. Supposed to be controlled? Supposed to be, she echoed. There's an inquiry, the commander said. Quiet. Internal. They'll say equipment malfunction. Ava turned toward the ICU again. And the dog? He stayed with his handler through the blast, the commander said. Shielded him. Took shrapnel himself. Ava's eyes softened. That dog did what soldiers do, she said. He didn't leave. The commander glanced at her. You trained animals like that. Yes, Ava said. We all did. They were part of the unit. Your unit? He began, then stopped. You said everyone died. Ava nodded. Everyone except me. And the dog? He asked carefully. Ava swallowed. We lost all of them, too. That was when the first nurse approached them. Excuse me, she said hesitantly. There's someone asking for you. Ava turned. Who? He didn't give a name, the nurse replied. Said he was here about the dog. The commander's posture changed instantly. Where? Administration, the nurse said. He has clearance. That didn't make sense. Clearance that high didn't exist for visitors. They walked together, Ava a step behind the commander this time. The hospital's administrative wing was quieter, carpeted, insulated from the chaos of patient care. A man stood near the desk, back to them, wearing a dark civilian coat. He turned as they approached. Ava recognized him instantly. Her pulse spiked. Thought I'd find you here, the man said calmly. The commander stiffened. You weren't cleared to be here. I was cleared enough, the man replied, eyes never leaving Ava. She's the one I came for. Ava's voice was flat. You should have stayed buried. The man smiled thinly. Funny. That's what they said about your unit. The commander stepped between them. Identify yourself. The man pulled a badge halfway from his pocket, just enough to show, not enough to confirm. Oversight. Ava laughed under her breath. That's not a title. It is when you don't want fingerprints, the man replied. We've been tracking anomalies tied to classified operations, dogs responding to dead codes, nurses performing procedures they shouldn't know. He looked her up and down. You slipped. Ava met his gaze without flinching. I saved a life. You exposed yourself, he countered. The commander's voice hardened. She's under my protection. For now, the man said lightly. But questions are being asked, and once they start... He gestured vaguely, as if wiping something away. Ava felt the old instinct return. The awareness, the readiness, the understanding that survival wasn't about strength, but timing. You're not here for answers, she said. You're here to decide if I'm a liability. The man's smile faded. Always were. Before the tension could escalate further, an alarm sounded faintly down the corridor. Not the ICU, not surgery, security. A guard rushed toward them. Commander, there's an issue. The K9. Ava's heart dropped. What kind of issue? He's aggressive again, the guard said. Won't let anyone near the bed. The commander spun. Near who? The SEAL, the guard replied. His vitals just spiked. He's waking up. Ava was already moving. They broke into a run, the oversight man trailing behind with a look of irritation. When they reached the ICU room, chaos had returned. The K9 was standing now, body rigid, eyes locked on the unconscious SEAL who was starting to thrash weakly. Nurses hovered helplessly at the doorway. He's coming out of sedation, a doctor shouted. He's disoriented. The K9 barked once, sharp, warning. Ava pushed past everyone and dropped to one knee beside the bed. Easy, she whispered, not to the dog, but to the man. The SEAL's eyes fluttered open, confused, panicked, his gaze locked on Ava. And in that instant, recognition flashed across his face, not of a nurse, but of someone he shouldn't have known. His lips parted. Ava? He rasped. The room went silent. The oversight man's eyes widened. The commander froze. And Ava realized with a cold certainty that whatever the SEAL was about to say next would change everything. Because the man everyone thought was just a wounded trainee knew her name. And he knew it from before. The K9 pressed closer to the bed, growling low, not at the staff, but at the man standing behind Ava. And as security's radios crackled again, Ava understood too late. The past hadn't followed her here by accident. The room felt too small the moment the SEAL said her name. Ava? It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was hoarse, half swallowed by pain and sedation. But it landed like a detonation. Every monitor seemed to get louder. Every breath felt heavier. The K9 rose fully onto his feet, positioning himself between the bed and the doorway, muscles coiled, eyes fixed on the man in the civilian coat standing behind Ava. The low growl that rolled out of his chest wasn't panic. It was recognition. Ava didn't turn around. She stepped closer to the bed instead, placing one hand gently but firmly on the SEAL's shoulder. You're safe, she said quietly. You're in a hospital. Don't move. His eyes struggled to focus. Pain flickered across his face, but beneath it was something else. Memory, training, awareness cutting through the fog. You came back, he whispered. Ava shook her head slightly. No, you did. The commander moved fast. Sedation team now. Keep him calm. No, Ava said. The commander hesitated. Ava? He's oriented enough, she said without raising her voice. If you sedate him hard right now, you risk the bleed restarting. The doctor checked the monitor, then nodded reluctantly. She's right. The oversight man shifted his weight. This is getting out of hand. That was when Ava finally turned. She looked straight at him, and for the first time since he'd entered the hospital, his confidence cracked. You shouldn't be here, Ava said, and you know it. He smiled thinly. You don't get to decide that. I already did, she replied. A long time ago. The K9 took one step forward. The man stopped talking. The SEAL groaned softly, eyes fluttering again. Ava turned back to him, lowering her voice. Listen to me, she said. You were injured during a training exercise. A grenade malfunctioned. Your dog stayed with you. You're alive because of him. The SEAL's hand twitched weakly, fingers brushing the dog's fur. The K9 leaned in instantly, pressing his head against the man's chest. Good boy, the SEAL murmured. Didn't leave. Ava swallowed. No, she said. He didn't. The room settled just enough for reality to catch up. The commander cleared his throat. You recognized her, he said to the SEAL. From where? The SEAL's brow furrowed. Desert. Night op. Years ago. I was attached to a different team. We saw her unit once. He paused, breathing shallow. They moved like ghosts. The oversight man stiffened. You shouldn't remember that, he said. The SEAL's eyes sharpened slightly. I remember because they saved us. A beat, then another. Ava felt something in her chest loosen, Just a fraction. The commander turned slowly toward the oversight man. You told us there were no witnesses. The man's jaw tightened. Memories fade. Apparently not, the commander replied. The oversight man exhaled, calculating. This doesn't change the facts. She's still a liability. Her existence alone contradicts multiple sealed reports. Ava stepped forward. Then unseal them, she said. You think that ends well? He shot back. For you? For the Navy? For everyone involved? She didn't flinch. I think I've lived long enough pretending I don't exist. Silence stretched. The K-9 sat down again, but his eyes never left the man. The commander broke the tension. This ends now. The oversight man looked at him sharply. You don't have the authority. The commander reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped once, then twice. I do, he said. As of 5 minutes ago. The man's phone vibrated. He checked it. Color drained from his face. You went over my head, he said quietly. I went to the only person who still remembers what that unit did, the commander replied, and who signed off on erasing them. The oversight man's lips parted, then closed. He nodded once. This isn't finished. Ava met his eyes. It is for me. He turned and walked out without another word. The hospital seemed to exhale with him gone. The SEAL drifted back into sleep, vitals steady now. The K-9 curled up beside the bed again, one paw touching the frame, satisfied his job wasn't done yet, but no longer urgent. The commander watched Ava for a long moment. They'll never fully admit what you were, he said, or what your unit did. I don't need them to, Ava replied. They offered to reinstate you, he continued. Command, advisory role, training, you'd have protection. Ava shook her head gently. I'm done leading people into the dark. You're sure? She looked at the SEAL, at the dog, at the ordinary hospital room filled with extraordinary consequences. I chose this life, she said, and I'll keep choosing it. The commander nodded, respect clear in his posture. Then the record stays sealed. Good, Ava said. Let the ghosts rest. Morning light poured through the ICU window now, soft and warm. The chaos of the night felt distant, like a storm that had passed without warning. A nurse approached hesitantly. They're asking for you up front, she said to Ava. Administration. Ava sighed. Paperwork? Some, the nurse said. And the dog's handler unit called. They want to thank you. Ava smiled faintly. Tell them he did all the work. The nurse nodded and left. The commander lingered. One more thing. Yes? You're not invisible anymore, he said. Not to the people who matter. Ava watched him walk away. She turned back to the bed, crouched beside the K-9, and rested her hand lightly on his head. He leaned into her touch without hesitation. You did good, she whispered. The dog's tail thumped once. Hours later, as the hospital returned fully to routine, Ava stood at the nurse's station, charting vitals like she always did. No one stopped her. No one questioned her. But something had changed. Doctors looked at her differently now. Not with fear, with respect. The past hadn't dragged her back into war. It had reminded her why she left. And as she glanced once more toward the ICU, where a man and his dog were alive because she spoke 6 forgotten words, Ava understood something she hadn't in years. She didn't need her old name. She didn't need medals or headlines. She had saved a life. And sometimes, that was enough. If this story moved you even a little, if you felt the loyalty, the sacrifice, the quiet strength, please don't scroll away. These stories survive because people like you stay, listen, and care. Please subscribe. Not for me, not for the algorithm, but for the forgotten heroes who never got their names back, and for the ones who still protect us in silence.